Mr. Goyal, you clearly have set the stage for India to take leadership on sustainable energy. What can the Indian government really do, and what can Indian companies do in this?
Prime Minister Modi is very passionate when it comes to both energy access for the people of India and for doing it smart in a sustainable manner. While we are focusing our efforts to ensure that every Indian gets connected with electricity by 2022, maybe even earlier, as I said, by 2019, I believe India is also very, very much willing to be a part of this global effort to reach electricity to the rest of the world. We'll be happy to work with African countries. We'll be happy to work with other countries. We formed the International Solar Alliance. It's kind of a platform in which all the countries between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn have been invited to join as members, about 121 countries. Most of Africa and countries like that are also a part of that. And through that platform, we'd like to share our experiences. We'll be happy to invest in these countries to bring electricity grids, to take solar and wind and hydropower into these countries.
Private Indian companies to do so?
Both private Indian companies and government is also willing to support through finance, support through low-cost finance. We are happy to help them with technologies. And having done the same thing in India over the years, I believe our experiences we can share with the rest of the world. The International Solar Alliance concept is only this. It's like a catalyst to bring those who have and support those who have not.
And technologically, the old model was that India relied on Western companies. Is that changing? Is India developing innovative technology itself?
Well, clearly, the India of today is not the India of lore. I mean, we have seen the dynamism that's there in Indian engineers and Indian technology providers and Indian investors, and the interest that has been generated to focus on the drab subject like energy efficiency, on energy being made more sustainable, renewable energy, is unparalleled. So you'll be happy to know that last year we had larger growth in installed capacity of renewable energy than we had in traditional form of energy. And I think this is only going to get better and better in the years to come. In the last 2 years, we've been able to have about 500 million incandescent bulbs replaced with LEDs. About half of them through a government company, the other half through the private sector.
Well, that is efficient use, but it's not innovative technology. Do we have more and more of that?
Even within efficient use, there's a technology about how to make it palatable and sell. So our program on LEDs might not have had an Indian technology component, but certainly had an Indian innovation in terms of people paying for that bulb out of their savings and then enjoying the rest of the savings for themselves. This is something which was not thought of or conceptualized in the past, and which helped us to scale up from less than 1 million bulbs to nearly 200 million bulbs in a year. In the same way, we are looking at developing technologies around electric mobility, where we are hoping to lead the world rather than follow what the world does.
You would have entered this palace, sir, past an electric car. Wouldn't you like to come here next year and have an Indian electric car instead, or even alongside?
And you will see that happen. IITs are engaged in newer technologies on electric mobility. Battery is one area where we are watching to see how the world moves, where India is also to start investing. Overall, India has a unique advantage that most people still don't own their own vehicle. So it's not as if we'll have to look at massive replacements. We'll have to make the first-time owner get excited enough and make it an economically viable proposition for him to own that car.
But given long distances and relatively sparse infrastructure still, the models required in India for electric vehicles would be different from those needed in Europe.
Well, every country has a unique proposition, and there's never a one-size-fits-all solution. But having said that, we made some analysis about the usage of vehicles in India. Well, certainly we have a large number of trucks, the trailers and trucks which move cargo going long distance. The number of automobiles going long distance is not very large in India. A typical Indian car runs for less than 100 kilometers in a day. The buses that run in the cities, the public transport buses, usually one route before they end their journey and take a break before the next journey is never more than an average of 30 or 40 kilometers. And we are also in all of these looking at newer models like swapping batteries. Instead of adding huge amount of weight in the vehicle to have large storage capacity, we are looking at easy availability of swapping stations.
It's a huge logistical challenge, is it not?
Well, India loves to take on challenges, and so far we've been quite successful in the challenges we've taken up, and we'll take up even more in the days to come.
When will we see electric vehicles on scale in India?
I would think that by about 3 years from now, or let's say by 2022, you'll see a massive engagement with electric mobility in India.
Well, electric vehicles can be really nuclear powered, can't they, if the source is nuclear? And we're here in Vienna, and we had the Atomic Energy Agency meeting, the nuclear suppliers group. All that was 10 years back, a lot of excitement, and not a lot has happened since. Where are we on that front?
Well, we are in dialogue with several countries to be a part of the nuclear suppliers group, NSG. We are also in dialogue with several countries on technologies to set up and expand our own nuclear base in India. And that process continues to work its way forward rapidly. For the immediate way forward, we are focusing on renewables through solar, through wind, through hydro. While on a twin diplomatic track, we are working on the nuclear growth in India.
On solar, we've seen prices come down to perhaps unworkable levels. Also, the target hasn't, or 40,000 or so, we're only a fraction of our way there. So is there a new push on that front that is imminent or required?
Well, first of all, about the unsustainable level of the price, I've heard that story for the last 3 years. Every time we determined a lower price. I heard it when 12 cents became 10, when 10 became 8, 8 became 5. And today we are at 4. Well, I don't know. I thought it was already quite low, and then this last bidding. And all of this is transparent bidding, where international companies are participating. So you had some of the world's most renowned companies win the last bid at 4 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, clearly, that's something which government is not mandating or pushing. It's determined by market forces. That's the advantage of economies of scale, of transparency and honesty in our procurement process, newer technologies being deployed, which we are enjoying. And as regards growth, you'll be happy to know our solar installed capacity has grown by 370% in the last 3 years. And this rapid growth is going to continue in the years to come. The figure of 40,000 megawatt which you mentioned was our rooftop program figure. It wasn't the overall solar program. Yes, on rooftops, one challenge that's coming up is that batteries are still very expensive. And to make microgrids or mini-grids successful, we need to have storage, because after all, I can't tell people that after sunset, you have to live in darkness. So we are still dependent on large amounts of solar being generated and injected into the grid. But if we can get cheaper batteries, and there's a lot of technology development going on there, hopefully we'll be able to encourage more rooftops coming in.
Well, with the conventional energy sources still feeding the grid substantially, are there plans to overhaul existing units or even scrap some of them? That would bring in fresh capital, among other things?
Well, I did an analysis, and I found that if we replace all the old coal-based power plants, the thermal plants, which are quite inefficient old technology, with super efficient, supercritical modern technology, the amount of saving in terms of carbon dioxide emissions and pollution is probably far more than the amount of reduction in carbon dioxide emission that new renewable energy brings in. So we have already embarked on a program, NTPC, which is the country's national utility generating 1/4 of our power, has already taken a decision to replace all plants which are more than 25 years old with supercritical modern plants. We're in dialogue with other states who largely own the older plants to see if we can get them to replace them with supercritical new technologies. And then this process will continue over the next few years, so that we can gradually move into a far more efficient way of producing power using our indigenous material coal. We have set very tight environmental standards, which over the next 5-7 years will become almost mandatory for all power plants to follow.
So that coal won't be so bad after all?
Coal was never so bad. After all the countries of the developed world have used coal to their advantage, have used coal to develop their economies, to develop their infrastructure, to give incomes to their people, to generate...
When India is developing, this is stop.
Pardon me?
And when India is developing, this is stop.
Well, they've not said stop. I think they all understand the imperative of having a base load, and coal is India's base load of power. But I have no doubt in my mind that going forward, the energy mix of the world is going to improve significantly, and India will be at the forefront of that change.
Any new reforms expected on power and on coal? Because there have been some demands and some expectations certainly along those lines.
Well, reform is an ongoing process. I don't think at any point of time one can say so far and no further. One can never rest satisfied on his laurels on whatever has happened also. So continuous improvements in energy efficiency, in conservation of energy, in better technologies to integrate the grid with renewables, a thrust to hydropower generation. All of these are ideas and processes which we are continuously looking at improving.
And on financing, any plans to list Coal India on the London Stock Exchange?
Well, I think it's an independent company listed in India with an independent management. They take a call on all these decisions. The government does not instruct these autonomous companies on what is good for them, what they need to do.
So in this changing mix, you do see a significant new proportion for renewables in India?
Very clearly, we set a target to add renewable energy, particularly solar and wind, in a big way, and take solar up from 2,600 megawatt in 2014 to 100,000 megawatt in 2022. Wind was expected to go up to 60,000 megawatt. All of these put together, if you would have pure renewables at 175 gigawatts, hydro, which most parts of the world, including Austria, look at as renewable energy, would add another 50. So India will have 225 gigawatts of renewable power, which would almost be at the level which we had committed in Paris in 2030. So almost 40% of our installed capacity would be renewable by 2022 itself instead of 2030. India believes in renewable energy. We believe in sustainability. As Prime Minister Modi says, it's an article of faith for him. And we are not going to rest on any targets alone. We are always going to be exceeding our targets on sustainability.
Looking forward to a lot more renewable energy in India and more renewed energy from your ministry. Thank you very much, sir, for talking to us.
Thank you. Nice talking to you.